Hey, Will, come here. I'm making your favorite.
Thanks, John, but honestly, I'm not really in the mood for French onion soup with a healthy dash of cumin.
Well, gosh, Will, what's the matter? Are you mad I crunched the baguette like in Ratatouille without you?
Well, John, don't get mad at me.
Done.
But I can't do this week's episode of Cinemaholics.
What? Why not? Are you going to some virtual reality EDM rave?
No, not this week. No, I'm actually going to follow my dreams this week.
Will, you're scaring me again. I thought your dream was to do Cinemaholics with me every single week. Forever.
Well, John, some dreams change. See, I got an electronic email from a follower on Instagram. Turns out my weekly Hawaiian shirt Saturday posts have really been catching the eye of the most important people in the biz.
No, Will, don't tell me. Are you
That's right. I'm an influencer now. And I can't be on Cinemaholics anymore. Hashtag low priority, hashtag fun the sun, hashtag real friends who get me.
Oh, well, fine. I don't need someone on this movie review podcast to review movies. Do you think you're so hashtag irreplaceable? Well, hashtag guess what? I can do the show with you on it without you even being on it.
Hashtag whatever, hashtag don't care. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your hashtag way out.
Welcome once again to Cinemaholics. I'm John Negroni. I'm the box office columnist for Adam Tickets, head writer of Cinemaholics.com, and I occasionally write books. He is a pop culture writer for Cinema Blend who is definitely here right now. And he also reviews films for Cinemaholics.com. It's Will Ashton. Hello. All right, Will, how are you doing this week? It's been kind of a crazy time, huh? Yeah, if I had to grade this week, I'd be between like a C- and a C. I think ultimately I'd have to give it a D-, because you gave it like a B+, so that makes a lot of sense to me. Oh, wow. Well, that's crazy, but okay. Yeah, I've been having a tough time too, but I'm glad you're here because you're my friend, and I love talking about movies with you. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to talk about a bunch of really cool movies. First up is going to be The High Note. We're going to get into that movie. We're going to talk about Body Cam, which Will has seen and I have not seen. That's going to be difficult. And then a few other things. It's going to be a packed episode, but hey, don't forget, if you want more episodes of Cinemaholics, you can't get enough, you want to see our full archive, well, all episodes of Cinemaholics are on Cinemaholics.com. Super easy. And you can write into the show anytime. Send us an email. Cinemaholicspodcast@gmail.com is how you do that, as always. We love our patrons on Patreons. We want to shout them out, of course. And if you're interested in becoming one, you can donate to the show, help us keep the lights on and everything like that. You can go to patreon.com/cinemaholics. And Will, yeah, I mean, we love our Patreon, right? Like you definitely get on the Patreon all the time. Oh, yeah, I do. And, I'm ready to talk about some movies, John. And, I just want to take this moment to say that, you're my best friend. And even though we don't always agree on movies, secretly I agree with you. I'm just trying to stir up drama for the show, make a little bit more interesting and contentious. Oh, well, I know that. And it's fun doing this show with you too. That's why we do it every week on Cinemaholics. What a great time to be alive.
John?
Huh? Oh, Will, what are you doing back here?
It turns out I can only be an influencer if I pretend to be someone completely different than who I am right now and sell out all my morals, integrity, and creative freedom. But really, the pay wasn't that great.
Bummer. Sorry, Will. I mean, hashtag bummer summer.
Hey, wait a minute. Why are you holding up a sock puppet? And why is it wearing a Hawaiian shirt?
I just,
Did you draw a mustache on your own sock?
Hey, look over there. It's Off Topics.
Wait, what?
All right, our first off topic this week, we have a birthday shout out. And that's right, we started doing birthday shout outs last week, and definitely write into the show if you want to do one. But yeah, we got one from someone. We actually got a couple, and so we had to pick and choose, sorry. But if you send it, you probably have a good chance, because we only got like 3. So you had like a 1 in 3 chance. That's pretty good. But happy birthday, Travis, from your best bud, Nathan. So Nathan wrote in and said, I know you love Cinemaholics, so for your birthday, I want them, John and Will, to say their favorite movie since yours is Die Hard. I gotta say, Will, Die Hard's a good movie. I really like it, but tell
like
the
it a lot.
listeners, what's your favorite movie? Is it the second Die Hard?
I'm pretty sure I've said it before, but yeah, my favorite movie is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the 70s one, not the Tim Burton one, though I'm fine with the Tim Burton one.
That is a wonderful movie. Yes, I haven't rewatched Willy Wonka in quite a long time.
Holds up. It really holds up.
Yeah, it's I grew up on that movie. I remember that was one of the first novels I ever read. I think I was in like second grade, and that was a really good read. I remember being like, man, stories are fun. And then I think I watched the movie after I read the book, which
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I think I didn't watch the movie until I was a little bit older, like probably like fourth grade. So
yeah, I had like a Roald Dahl phase when I was a kid because I just was like, man, this guy is responsible for all these movies I love. I gotta read the books. So I like read like 4 to like 8 of them. I remember like back to back.
No, some would say your Roald Dahl phase has not ended, and that's what I say.
I guess so. Right.
As for me, my favorite movie is there's a few of them, but most of the time I'll say it's The Mask of Zorro. I'm a big Zorro fan. I like all the Zorro movies, honestly. Yeah, even Legend of Zorro to some extent, but like Mark of Zorro, the one with Douglas Fairbanks. I mean, they're so good. The silent movie version, but The Mask of Zorro, which came out in the late 90s, has just been my favorite movie for a long time. Kind of similar to you. It's a big part of my childhood. And I mean, that is, if you want to know like my favorite kind of movies, and we don't get enough movies like this these days, it's swashbuckling adventure movies, like the first Pirates of the Caribbean, Princess Bride, like any sort of like sweeping adventure with like heroes and villains and comedy and romance, like all of that stuff, that classic adventure stuff. I'm such a fan of, especially like Errol Flynn movies and dating all the way up to like current films. It is weird we don't get movies like Mask of Zorro or Willy Wonka and the Charlie Factory anymore. It's kind of sad, actually.
Yeah. I think they're maybe making a prequel to Willy Wonka, which I'm not really interested in per se, but I don't know. I'll see it.
Well, that's not really what I'm getting. I'm not getting at like...
I know, yeah.
It's more of like that kind of movie, that kind of like whimsy that's a little bit... I mean, I guess like Paddington is probably the closest thing to a Willy Wonka sort of thing. Yeah. But anyway, as for Mask of Zorro, like I guess the closest thing we ever get are like the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels. And even then, those are so like blockbuster. It's different. It's not the same kind of thing. But I guess we do get Batman movies. Close enough.
Yeah, that wasn't quite the direction I thought you were going, but sure.
Oh, what direction do you think I was going to go in?
I don't know. I mean, like I'm trying to think of some other swashbuckling films. Like, do you like Romancing the Stone?
Yeah, that's a good watch. I thought you were going to go more recent to be like the remake of like Ben-Hur, I guess, which that doesn't really count. I mean, that's...
Oh, I forgot about that movie. I forgot that happened.
Yeah, I guess that's not a good example either. But like, when was the last time we got a movie like Princess Bride? Like maybe kind of Ella Enchanted has a little bit of that vibe, but not really. We get like fairy tale things, really. I guess, but those are very different. It's not the same sort of thing.
Oh, like Shrek.
Shrek, yes. Shrek does have it is closer in spirit, I would say, to like a good swashbuckling adventure. At least the first Shrek.
Yeah.
But all right, once again, happy birthday, Travis, and thank you, Nathan, for sending that in. One of the reasons we picked this birthday shout out is because it had like a little like question attached to it, which I thought was a cool idea. So if you would like to do your own birthday shout out for someone you care about, you can do that super easily. You can just send us an email, cinemaholicspodcast@gmail.com. That's in the show notes, of course, and let us know whose birthday it is and when we can celebrate. He didn't say when Travis's birthday was exactly, so we're assuming it's today, which would probably not show.
Happy birthday.
Oh well. One more off topic, Space Force, new show on Netflix, stars Steve Carell.
Yeah.
And it's from the creator of The Office and a bunch of other shows you love, Greg Daniels. This show has an incredible cast. It just hit Netflix. It's based on something kind of real, like it's like a commentary, I guess, on the actual Space Force that the current president created a few years ago to sort of be like an Air Force, but for space, even though we already have NASA. Yeah. Whatever. So
Elon Musk. It's
like a branch of the military, right? Well, and so the show is like the main appeal of it is the people involved, right? It's Greg Daniels. Steve Carell not only stars in it, but he is an executive producer as well. And you have an unbelievable cast. You have, he co-created it with Greg Daniels. John Malkovich stars in this. Ben Schwartz from Parks and Recreation, Diana Silvers, who you probably saw in like Booksmart pretty recently. And there's the guy, yes. And I was going to say Jimmy O Yang. I was trying to remember his first name. And Fred Willard, Lisa Kudrow, like Jane Lynch, just Dietrich Bader. There are so
Warburton.
many, like Patrick Warburton is in this. Kaylin Olsen is in this. It's unbelievable.
Oh, really? I didn't catch her.
Like cast in this. And Tawny Newsome as well. So this should be a huge show. This should be like killing it. First episode.
It is.
Guess who directed it?
Well, I mean, it's doing really well rating wise, I guess, like somewhat. Yeah.
We mentioned Paddington earlier. Paul King directed the first episode. He did the Paddington movies. And I think he directed a few episodes. Dee Reese directed 2 episodes. I mean, my gosh, Will Ashton, this should be the best show on Netflix. It should be one of the best shows. I hate this show so much. I watched the first 4 episodes, and I think it's virtually unwatchable. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's smart. I don't know what Steve Carell is trying to do here with this performance, but I think it's just god awful. Like, it's so just weird. It's weirdly trying too hard, but also not really trying at all. The only thing about this show that even works a little bit is John Malkovich, but that's because it's John Malkovich. Like, the dude can,
of course,
entertain sitting down, sleeping. He's just fantastic in every way. But I've seen a few episodes of this. We know people who do like this. Corey Woodruff, friend of the show, likes this show. Charlie Ridgely, another friend of the show, likes the show.
Yeah.
I do not like the show. After 4 episodes, I said, nope, I'm not watching anymore. There's 10 episodes. Did you like this though? You saw 1 episode, right?
Yeah, I watched the pilot just before we recorded, and I mean, I'm not quite as negative as you are, I guess. I mean, I'm not necessarily in the this is good camp, but I definitely thought it was a lot more watchable than you're making it seem. I don't know. It does move at a very good clip. At least the pilot. I can't speak for the episodes you saw after that, but yeah, I mean, I am pretty neutral on this one. It definitely seems like the type of show where it's similar to a lot of other satirical comedies of late, where it's trying to be political, but it's also like generally kind of toothless in its approach. Like, it's just kind of vaguely talking about politics, but not really getting to the heart or being really pointed in any particular way. So it just has this kind of like modern day SNL thing where it's just like kind of discussing things that are going on politically, but not really getting to the meat of them in a way that feels super effective to me. But yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it's the cast that I like, or that the fact that the show clearly has a way bigger budget than your traditional sitcom. But yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely tepidly willing to give it a few more episodes at least. But yeah, I can't say I'm really a fan yet. It just seems very kind of middle of the road for me.
I don't get it. Like, I don't get what this show is trying to do or what it's trying to be. The story and the characters just all seem very mishandled. Like, the first episode, the second episode, the conflicts, like what the characters are going through and what they want, their motivations, like they all just seem to be really shallow and uninteresting. Like, I'm just not
I'd agree with that.
invested. And like, when you get introduced to a lot of these characters, there's a big time gap in between the very beginning when we're introduced to Steve Carell, who's this like army. He just became a 4-star general, and now he's going to be running the Space Force. And then we skip over to like he already has his team, and a bunch of stuff has happened, and the show kind of slowly like reveals everything in between. But there's just like no pomp and circumstance to like these characters, who they are, what's going on. And I don't know, everybody fits like a very one-dimensional role. Like, Diana Silvers is just this kind of like rebellious, like young millennial Gen Z kind of character. Ben Schwartz is just doing a watered down version of a role he's already done before. You know, again, John Malkovich is a really good foil, but again, he just kind of shows up. There's not much to his character, at least in the early part of the first season. And I guess the show that this reminded me of that does this kind of show a little bit better is Orville. The Orville is a much better, like, you have a similarly like talented cast, although not on this level, but like that feels like a show that like knows what it's trying to do. Yeah, it's high concept. Every character has like a pretty clear role, but like that's a really smart show about like evolving its characters as it goes. And Orville hooks you like 2 episodes in. This one, I I couldn't stand it. So sadly, I'm not into it.
Yeah, I mean, I only saw the pilot for Orville as well, and I remember that one was, I guess I had similar feelings. I was kind of just so on that. So I can't speak on the show, what happened after that, but I did hear it got pretty good. So
oh yeah, Orville really hums along, man. When it gets good, it gets really good.
Nice, that's good to hear. But yeah, this one, I don't know. You've seen more of it than I have, so you can speak more towards what happens. Next 3 episodes, yeah, I'm just basing off what I saw in the pilot, which I thought was just, maybe if I had more expectations for this, because I had heard kind of middling reviews, so my expectations were pretty tampered, but yeah. I do know like Greg Daniels' other shows. I know you would like the Amazon one a lot, so I can't speak for that.
Yeah, Upload is really good.
Yeah.
To the point where I'm like really surprised how different in quality these two things are.
Well, maybe he put a little bit more effort to that, and maybe this is more Steve Carell's baby. I don't know. But yeah, I do know, talking about his other shows at least, the first seasons don't really, people tend to like them more when they go on, which the problem with this one though is that it's so high budget and so high concept that Netflix may not be willing to give it a second season if the response to this first season is pretty tepid, especially because, I mean, given that it's Greg Daniels and Steve Carell, they're probably really hoping from the onset that this is just going to do really well. And it is like the number one thing on Netflix, so I don't know. It is not, it's not doing poorly, but yeah, I don't know if that's enough to give it a second season, which might be a shame if it does get better as it goes along. But like you said, it doesn't seem like that's the case, at least for this first season, which is unfortunate, but oh well.
Yeah, I can't speak for King of the Hill, honestly.
King of the Hill's great.
Yeah, I've never really got into that show. But yeah, like the first seasons of The Office and Parks and Recreation certainly aren't their best. Like I'd say, but the first Office season is still genuinely really good. Like I think that it's not quite like the magical Office that like it's not like the great show that it eventually becomes, but it's still good. Like it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was thinking more like, I haven't really watched a lot of it, so I can't speak too much on it. But I know people, when they talk about Parks and Rec, they're like, oh, you know, we love this show, but like, oh, we love this show, but, you know, like you have to get past the first season. I don't know if that's going to be a case with this one where it's just like, you know,
you don't really, it didn't really find its voice in the first season of Parks and Rec. That is the case. And yeah, hopefully somehow Space Force can get to that point. But I think that it's just so much so quickly that I don't know. Like the big difference between this show and those shows is those shows are so much more chill, you know, like they're lower stakes, low, like, you know, they're simpler. Whereas this is so, like you said before, high concept. Yeah.
Well, I mean, isn't Good Place pretty high concept too? Just given the premise.
But he didn't make that.
Oh wait, that's the other guy, right? That's
Michael Schur. Yeah. So he co-created Parks and Rec with Mike Schur, and then Mike Schur did Good Place, and
that's
I mean, I would say The Good Place is a terrific follow-up to Parks and Recreation.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I guess if it does get a second season, I'm kind of curious, but also I'd have to watch the rest of the season and really form an opinion on it. So far, though, I agree. I'm not really a fan. I'm not really taken by it. It does seem like a missed opportunity so far, but I guess I'm a little bit more optimistic than you are just based on the way you're talking about it.
All right. Well, that is Space Force, kind of a little impromptu mini review we did. But let's talk about some movies. We are Cinemaholics after all. Even though there is no cinema to go to, we will still talk about it in an abstract sense. So let's start with our review of The High Note.
I grew up around music. It's my whole world. If you told 12-year-old me that one day I'd be working for Grace Davis, she's an icon.
This woman doesn't even know your last name.
She does, sometimes.
Stop. I'm not gonna tell you guys you're great if you're not great. Do it again.
Damn, the girls still give me goosebumps.
Well, Grace, have you thought any more about the Vegas residency?
Actually, I think it's time I record a new album.
I mean, that's one plan.
What am I supposed to say to her? I'm just a personal assistant, but I'd love to produce your music.
Let me do my job, and you do yours, which is get her coffee, Kleenex, Kotex, and whatever else the hell we've been paying you to do for the last 6 months.
I've been here for 3 years.
You get paid? I thought you were an intern.
My life is a joke!
High Note is it was supposed to be in theaters, right? It's I don't know how to describe this movie. Like, it's not really a comedy. It's not really a drama. It's like a feel-good comedy drama, I guess. You know, it's kind of like in the same vein as like Crazy Stupid Love and...
Well, it's the next film from the filmmaker of Late Night, which kind of fits into a similar mold where that's, I guess, a little bit more of a direct comedy.
I was going to say Late Night is a bit more of a comedy compared to this.
Yeah, but it has kind of a similar vibe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very similar vibe, you're right. But like you said, yes, also directed by Nishi Ganatra. And this was also written by Flora Greason, who I'm not as familiar with, actually. This stars Dakota Johnson, Tracee Ellis Ross, Kelvin Harrison Jr., Zoe Chow, Bill Pullman, Ice Cube. Really good cast. And it's kind of a story you've probably heard a million times. Dakota Johnson is this personal assistant, and she works for this Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston level singer played by Tracee Ellis Ross, which is kind of interesting considering she's the daughter of Diana Ross. And, you know, she's a bit of a diva and like she bosses her personal assistant around. So you get a little bit of like Devil's Wear Prada in there. And Dakota Johnson's character, she wants more. She wants to become a music producer. She has like an encyclopedic knowledge of music, and she kind of white-splains soul music a few times to some black characters, which, okay, that does happen. And
sure.
that is the premise of the movie, is that like she's this person who she just needs a shot. And at one point, she tries to leverage her career into maybe elevating this guy she has a meet cute with, Kelvin Harrison Jr.'s character. He is a just really naturally talented singer, and she decides, if I can pretend to be a music producer, if I can fake it till I make it, I can help turn this guy into a star while trying to balance my day job as a personal assistant.
Okay, let's stop for a second.
Something's off, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it needs some, like, layers, you know, a little bit of warmth.
Yeah.
And, maybe some harmonies. I can get some backup singers.
Can you just do it? I mean, we could always replace it later. I just want to hear it right now, man.
I can have somebody here in an hour. We'll just...
Maggie.
David.
Maggie.
David, no.
You know the song. We wrote the song, right? We've done it 100 times. Just come on and do it. It'll be fun.
This is my area, and that's your area. So nope.
Maggie, please.
Don't push me, David.
Come on.
Oh my God. No.
Is there something I could do to twist and turn back the time?
And yes, it's like a liar reveal kind of story, which is a big weakness of this movie. But at the same time, like, yeah, this is one of those, like, what you see is what you get movies. Like, if you're not into this within like the first 10, 15 minutes, you're not going to be into it later. But I would say, like, at least for me, this is like Lovebirds again. I'm a sucker for these kinds of movies. These are airplane movies, and I mean that it's a nice thing. I like movies like this, very chill, very like non-pretentious. Though you could argue it's a little pretentious with like its music. It's basic. This is a basic movie, but I like movies like this that are a little basic. So I'm into The High Note. I think it's a fun watch, and I really like Kelvin Harrison Jr. in this. I think he steals the movie, and his singing voice is just like. Yeah. I hope that's really him, and if it is, we need to get some record deals. We need to get some people on the phone.
Well, I knew I recognized the guy, but I was like, I couldn't place my finger on what. And then when I realized it was,
that's Ice Cube. No, I'm just kidding.
No, not Ice Cube. I meant, no, I did actually like Ice Cube. He's probably my favorite thing about this. But no, just by the end of it, I didn't even realize this was Luce or whatever his character was in Waves. That dude's a chameleon. He can really.
And the photograph.
Oh, I didn't see the photograph, but he's super talented.
He's having a moment.
Yeah. So I'm really hoping he gets a high profile gig, and I'm hoping for the best for him, especially because he was on the show. But as far as the movie itself, this is one of those movies where it's like it's fine. Like I can't get mad at it. It's notably not my thing, I guess. It doesn't really do much for me. Like you said, it's very inoffensive. It doesn't mean any harm. It's just trying to be nice and give people something cozy and sweet. And, it's kind of hard to get mad at something like that. And it's a lot more, like you said, casual compared to like the Lovebirds, where like that movie is a little bit more frantic in its approach. This one definitely has a lot more kind of subdued intentions, I guess. It just, like you said, it's not really a comedy, but it's not a drama either. It's just kind of coasting on the charm of its cast and in a premise that I guess could have seemed like first world problems, but they try to take an approach that's a little bit more relatable, I guess, in some cases, but not especially. But I don't know. I guess compared to Late Night, I don't know if it was just because Mindy Kaling wrote a script that did have like kind of like little moments that made me chuckle or kind of kept me invested or what. But yeah, that one, it wasn't a great film, but I remember thinking it was fine. Like that was like the type of airplane film I would enjoy, where it's like, pretty low stakes, doesn't really end up on any best or worst list, but I enjoyed the time I watched it. This one I was kind of hoping for the same. And I didn't really get that, but I didn't hate it either. It's just like, I like the people involved with this. It seemed like everyone was kind of doing what they can, not really doing their A game, but not slumming it. And, yeah, I don't know. I wish I had more to say about it, because I don't know. It was what it was. I didn't hate it. I didn't really like it either. It happened. And once we talk about it, I'll probably forget about it in 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, I'm the opposite with Late Night. I much prefer this to Late Night. I don't dislike that film or anything. It's just that movie, both of these movies, you could really pick them apart. Like we could just go through it and like step by step, just be like, this is ridiculous. This makes no sense. This is just like you said, the first world problems. At one, like the big dramatic problem that Tracee Ellis Ross's character has is like choosing between either being a performer in Vegas, which will make her tons of money, or making an album, which would make her tons of money. And like it's like so low stakes. It's ridiculous. Like either scenario is fine. Like there's nothing.
She'll live.
And like Dakota, yeah, like Dakota Johnson, like at no point do you feel like her future is in jeopardy. Like she's clearly like really talented, and it's kind of like the La La Land scenario where like you know things will work out for her in some way. Like this movie's not trying to really push them.
And also like Kelvin Harrison Jr. like has this huge apartment, even though he's just kind of like they explain why, but yeah,
but they do explain it. Yeah,
you're right. But it's also like, even his like plight doesn't seem like, like if this doesn't work out for him, he'll be slumming it for the rest of his life or something. He's gonna be fine. So yeah, everyone's gonna be fine. Yeah,
that's why I enjoyed it though. I wanted low stakes. Like I wanted people having a nice time because like I don't know, just things are so sad and drastic and tragic right now, and like this movie was like medicine for me. And I understand it's not everybody's jam, pun intended. Like the music in this is like not amazing, although like I do like one of the songs, I guess. But yeah, it's like I don't know, it's a movie that it is clearly like aiming for a vibe, and you're either on that vibe, like I said, or you're not. I just happen to be on this vibe. I think that it's a bit more consistently entertaining than Late Night. I think Late Night, I kept picking apart at the seams. Maybe I was in a different headspace when I saw that movie. Maybe if the timelines were reversed, I would be saying that I prefer Late Night. I don't know. But I also really like the subject matter too. Like I think music production is a more interesting avenue for a movie to me than like late night comedy writing. Like that kind of thing is like not as interesting to me. Like I love music. I love making music. So like, even though this is like a very Hollywood glamorized version of like how music is made, like, spoiler alert, like it's much more complicated and it's much more cynical than this movie paints it. But that's fine because I like a movie that just kind of plays it a little safe with this sort of thing for the sake of giving the audience a good watch. But yeah, I definitely, while I was watching this, I was like, yeah, this isn't the kind of movie that I don't think Will's going to be jumping on here singing its praises, I guess.
Yeah, no pun intended. Or maybe pun intended, I don't know, I can't speak for you.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I was pretty convinced you weren't going to start singing, yeah.
I think I'm mostly in line with what you're saying. Yeah, it just didn't really work for me. I don't know. It's like you said, it's something really that I can like pick apart. We can, but it's like there's no real sense in doing that. It is what it is. Like you said, you like it or you don't. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't really fond of it either. It happened. I was hoping it would get my mind off of things. It didn't really, but it didn't go out of its way to make me mad about anything else. So It is what it is. Like I said, I wish I had some more things, either good or bad, to say about it. But it's just a aggressively so film that I can see why they opted not to give us a theatrical release. That's another thing I've kind of noticed recently, is that a lot of the movies that they've pushed to VOD, like there's this concern, like, oh, is this the end of theaters and all this stuff? And for the most part, it seems like a lot of movies that got the VOD treatment are just kind of like whatever movies, or they're not that good, like Scoob. So like I'm not particularly worried if we're just gonna get a lot of movies like this on VOD, but I also kind of hope something better comes along, because this is, like I feel like we're definitely at a lack of content right now, and I definitely wish we had movies like this that are just, feel good, charming little sweet movies. But in the end, maybe it's just because comedy writing is a little bit more interesting to me than record producing. Not that record producing is uninteresting. I feel like that's been explored a little bit more than maybe comedy writing has. I don't know. Maybe it's unfair to say, but for me, it was fine. It was a C. People like it. People won't, I guess, but I can't really see anyone getting mad about this film. Like I think it just, like you said, you like it or you don't. It wasn't my thing, but I wish it well.
All right, that's a B+ for Will. I would say, okay, fine, it's a C. I'm like a B-. Yeah, I think I mentioned Kelvin Harrison Jr. is a big reason why I connected with this movie a little bit more than I probably would have. It did also, like, you enjoy Ice Cube kind of playing against type a little bit. Although not always playing against
not
type
really,
necessarily.
But
well, usually he's a little bit more of like a likable jerk. In this, he's just a jerk. Like, he's just sort of like,
but no one's like really
foil.
a jerk.
He's the antagonist. Yeah, it's like they get to a point where they round him out. Like, he's not super one-dimensional. Like, you kind of figure out like where he's coming from, and his motivations do make a lot of sense. I'm like, yeah, if I was him, I would be pushing this. I think it's totally reasonable, like what he wants and what he expects. He's just a bit of a jerk about everything.
I guess they dropped his sugar plot. That never went anywhere.
Yeah, that probably hit the cutting room floor. And I think it's kind of nice that, like, Dakota Johnson, kind of doing working girl, right? Like, she's a daughter of Melanie Griffith, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it makes a lot of sense for her to do a movie like this. And I think Dakota Johnson is tragically utilized in a lot of films. And I think she has this weird reputation because of the 50 Shades movies, but she's proven time and again, between Peanut Butter Falcon, Bad Times at the El Royale, and even in this movie, like, she has charisma for days. And, I don't really understand why there's a little bit of a hate train for this actor. And although my one total criticism, there's no excuse for this. As much as I love Bill Pullman, why didn't you just give the role to Don Johnson? You wanted to. That's what we really came to see.
You know what? I'm going to actually, I'm not against, if they had given it to Don Johnson, I would have been happy, but I'm also happy with Bill Pullman, only because, like, I haven't seen Bill Pullman in forever.
Great.
Like, I think the last thing I saw Bill Pullman in was that Independence Day sequel.
Independence Day Resurgence, yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I've seen him in anything since, so it's like, I was happy to see Bill Pullman. I didn't know he was in this. I didn't know who was in this. Like, I didn't even know Ice Cube was in this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was, like, I didn't see any trailers or anything before this.
I saw the trailer, yeah.
Yeah. So, when he came in fairly late in the game too, I was like, oh, okay. Well, how about that? That's nice. But I will say I won't give it away, obviously, but like in the last 15 minutes, there's like this crazy, stupid love-esque twist that I don't know if I love it, hate it, or just kind of admire it for being kind of stupid, but wholehearted. But it is I
love how wonderful it is. Or like, I love how they play it. That's the thing I like about it.
It's very kind of haphazard how it happens. Like, they just kind of are like, well, how are we going to connect these plots? And then just kind of come up with an explanation. It's just like, does that really make sense? Not really, but the movie's almost over, so why do you care? So, yeah.
By the way, I did mention this, but like, we keep connecting things because we were talking about Max of Zorro earlier, and is Antonio Banderas still technically her stepfather?
Well, I think
wasn't he married to Melanie Griffith for a while?
I think he's the ex-stepfather because they got divorced, I think, like a couple years ago. Not too long ago, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was semi-recently. Yeah, I guess, do they stop being your step-parent if they divorce? I don't really know the rules.
I don't know. I mean, I do know that she is in Crazy in Alabama, which is his directorial debut, which also starred Melanie Griffith. So I guess they're close. Like, I mean, I would have to assume so, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
it
what their
seems like they're
relationship
best
is
friends. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to speculate. I don't know. This ain't the gossip section.
Yeah.
But I will echo what you said about Dakota Johnson, though. I think she is very talented. I don't know if it's something like people assume like there's a nepotism thing going on there because her parents are famous, but I really enjoy her, and I definitely like that she is used.
Yeah, I don't even think it's that.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, like, she's also kind of doing some, like, kind of artsy things, like, you know, like Suspiria and things like that, where she's using her fame, or like something like Peanut Butter Falcon, like a movie that might not have gotten picked up if it weren't for her and Shia LaBeouf's involvement, just because they can, you know, use her name to sell it and stuff. So I like that she's kind of doing a lot of like indie kind of artsy stuff as well as the studio stuff like this. Yeah, I'm a fan.
All right, that is the high note. You know, we mentioned it was supposed to come out in theaters in early May, but you know, like we said, it was that theatrical release was canceled. It's on video on demand right now. However, that is premium video on demand. So the only way you can watch it at the moment is by paying $20 to rent it, and you're not even buying it. My advice to people, like, I don't think like a lot of people should be renting this for that much money,
right,
unless you're watching it with a bunch of people. Like if you're taking advantage of like this theater ticket price. If you're watching alone, I would probably just wait. Like, you don't need to rush for this or anything. I think you
this is a Netflix.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. The Late Night was the one that got bought by Amazon, and that went to Prime Video after its theatrical release didn't do super well. But it's right now, I think it's doing pretty decently. It's like the third highest rented film on iTunes, second most rented film on Fandango. It's not doing very well on Prime Video though, which I think is kind of strange. I think it's like one of the on the double digits in ranking for Prime Video rentals, which okay. And go ahead, Will Ashton. It has a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Nice. I was also gonna say, what's the name of the girl from the woman from Blackish, the actress, the main star of this?
Tracee Ellis Ross.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I've actually seen her in anything before this, but I thought she did a good job as well. I mean, she clearly has a lot of charisma and star power as well, and I'd like to see her in some more movies that are maybe a little bit more well-rounded than this one. So I definitely would like to see her in more projects as well.
Yeah, she's wonderful. I haven't seen her in a lot of things either, except for Blackish and Mixedish. But yeah, she's fantastic, and you can definitely tell she is Diana Ross's daughter. She is truly talented. So, all right, that is the high notes. Let's talk about another movie. This one I have not seen, but you have, and this is quite a cast. So this is Body Cam, and this is being billed as a police procedural horror. And okay, the tagline is Protect, Serve, Survive. It stars Mary J. Blige, Nat Wolff. I think this is this was going to be Paramount, right? It was going to be, I think, in theaters. Like, I don't want to say that for sure, but obviously it's not now. It's a VOD release. Is this premium video on demand though?
I believe so. Yeah, I think this just like at last minute got pushed to VOD. Like, I think initially it was going, like you said, it was going to be in theaters, and like fairly late in the game, like in addition to all this going on, they were just like, yeah, this is going to be a VOD film. So they kind of kept this one pretty low under the radar. Like, I've seen a little bit of advertising for it, but not a lot, especially for a Paramount film.
Yeah. I think I haven't seen this, but you might also recognize David Zayas is in this. He was in Gotham, one of the main villains, and also in Dexter, which I love David Zayas because he's a fellow Puerto Rican. And we don't have enough Puerto Rican actors in movies. That's what I say. Thank you, Benicio del Toro, for all you do. But so Body Cam, what is this movie about, Will Ashton, and should we be watching this?
Well, yeah, that's the thing is that, so I got a screener for this, like maybe like a week or so ago. And like I said, I didn't really know a lot about it, but it seemed kind of intriguing. And then just in a very poor twist of fate, I saw this on Tuesday when a major moment happened in the news, and it definitely painted this film in an interesting light, I'll have to admit. But so the movie stars Mary J. Blige, like you said, and she plays a cop who recently was suspended, and she's coming back She also had an incident where her son tragically passed, and she is investigating the murder of a fellow officer, and she has a new partner who is played by, let me see, this is Nat Wolff, right? I get Nat and Alex mixed up.
It's Nat Wolff. He's the older brother. So this is not Hereditary Wolf. This is the guy who was in Kill Team, stuff like that.
Death Note.
Death Note. Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah.
Paper Towns.
He was in Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah. Palo Alto. Bunch of stuff. Naked Brothers Band. You know the deal.
Right. I
Stuck
think
in Love.
I think he's not
The
quite
Intern.
as talented. Yeah. You want to go through his whole resume?
Good posture. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think he's quite as good as Alex, but I don't think he's bad either. Anyway, they get partnered, and as they're going through their rounds, they start to notice some odd behavior and some body cam footage that they find on this deserted computer located in a deserted cop car. And from there, like you said, there's a lot of paranormal incidents that start to happen, primarily relating to people who were the victims of different cop-related incidents. And from there, you can definitely see why releasing this movie now is definitely... I don't know if this was intentional or not. I don't think it was, because like I said, I think it was already planned to be released when everything was happening, but it definitely was an intriguing time to release this film, and I definitely think had the movie lived up to its potential, I think it would be a film that a lot of people are talking about right now, but unfortunately, the film itself, while not necessarily bad or even terrible, it does feel like a missed opportunity. I don't know if you're familiar with the director, but it's Malik Booth. He did a Sundance film prior to this with John Boyega. I'm trying to think of the name of it right now, but it was a film he did between Attack the Block and Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Was it Imperial Dreams?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah, because that was right before Force Awakens. But that was him?
That's what I mean. Yeah, so this is his follow-up film. But that film, I hadn't seen it, but I know it got some good notices, particularly for John Boyega's performance. And this is a film where obviously this is a very, very intense premise. It's one that I think he definitely has some very vivid and haunting scenes. There's one or two scenes in this that really shook me and definitely affected me. But... as for the rest of it, I don't know. I think part of the problem is that Mary J. Blige's performance is weirdly, and I'm not quite sure why, but it's weirdly kind of flat. I think she's trying to portray this character as somewhat emotionally reserved because of the trauma that she's endured, and it seems like she's trying to communicate that. And I think she's a good actress, but something about the performance just felt weirdly detached the whole time in a way that I felt if her performance had been really emotionally affecting, it would have helped, I think, kind of smooth out some of the narrative flaws that pursue, which is that, I think having a premise like this, definitely the mix of supernatural and very realistic and very timely police procedural drama is definitely a mix that can be really effective if it's done well, but here it just never quite gels together. The stark realism of the cop procedural drama with the kind of more heightened supernatural elements, they don't necessarily gel, and unfortunately the plotting of the film definitely relies a lot on formula to the point where I feel the inventiveness of the premise doesn't quite get its due from a plot that doesn't have quite the same kind of high-minded ideas. Which is really a shame, because this is a film that, like I said, I think if this really was effective all throughout, like I said, there's some really good scenes in this, but if it was as effective as it was throughout, I think this is the type of film I'd definitely be saying, check this out. This is something that we should be seeing right now. And I'm not dissuading anyone from seeing it. I think there's some really memorable and haunting scenes in this, but by and large, I feel the film is unfortunately a bit of a missed opportunity. And that's a shame, because as I was going along, I was getting into it, but I also felt it wasn't quite matching what I was hoping it would be. And I think it will work. It's gotten okay reviews, so I might be a little negative on it compared to others, but I definitely it's one I've been thinking about a decent bit, especially with everything going on, which is more than I can say for a few other films we reviewed for the past week. So that does count for something. I'll give it a high C. I was putting a C and a C plus. I'll give it a high C though, just because I just don't think it moves past some of the formulaic problems I think it has. But I don't know. I would be definitely curious to hear if you end up seeing it, John, what you think, because it's one I've been wanting to talk about with other people just because of some of the ideas that it pursues and some of the themes that it tackles. But sadly, yeah, I don't think it quite lives up to its potential, unfortunately.
Yeah, I probably would have seen this if it had hit a streaming service. Just the VOD-ness. I did get a screener for this as well, but I just never jumped on it. And or I should say like a screening request, like all that stuff for review consideration. But yeah, something about this movie just never quite clicked with me. So I know Malik Booth's previous film, like you said, like I haven't seen Imperial Dreams, but I remember hearing a lot about it, like especially when we were being like, all right, what has John Boyega done already? Like a lot of us already knew about Attack the Block and everything, but this movie was like just coming out. So like I remember it being kind of high profile for him, and I remember it getting like really good reviews as a bit of a festival movie. But that movie, the difference between that and this is that Malik Booth did not write the script for this. The screenplay for this movie is co-written by Nicholas McCarthy and Richmond Rydell. But this is a story by Richmond Rydell. I don't know Rydell as well, but Nicholas McCarthy, he's like he kind of had a start as like a documentary guy. Like he worked on documentaries that were about movies. And then he went on and did like a couple of like horror films. So I guess that's like where the horror stuff kind of like reaches in. He did like The Prodigy, At the Devil's Door. And I think as a screenwriter and executive producer, like he really like had a lot of creative input. So it's odd because this film is like, obviously this is a very charged subject, especially right now, considering all the protests and, how people are viewing and analyzing police and police brutality and reforms. And this movie is literally called Body Cam. Like it cannot avoid this conversation. So it is kind of a weird balance that it seems to be striking because it's directed by, a black man. It's written by a white man, and so it's like, okay, what do we really have here? So that's the part that makes me more curious than anything else. I've heard mixed things. I think it's got like a kind of a almost mixed to negative on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not sure if it's like right in the middle or if it's like right below the I think it's the middle,
right below,
something like that. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not jumping out to see this honestly because this is not the kind of movie I think I'm equipped to handle at the moment. But it is interesting to hear that there's some stuff in there that affected you because that definitely intrigues me more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really wanted this movie to work. Like I feel like if it was, like you said, it's such a charged film and it has such a timely subject matter that if it really stuck the landing, this is like the type of small indie, well, I guess not indie, but like a smaller horror movie that could really, stand out in the VOD market right now and really find an audience. But unfortunately, I just don't think it works as well as it should. And that's a shame. But I do think, like you said, I think Malik Booth is a talented filmmaker and I would like to see more from him. Maybe if he had more of an influence on the script, it would have worked out better. I don't know. But it definitely is an intriguing film and I would be curious to see what other people think of it because it hasn't really gotten too many reviews from what I've seen and I don't know anyone who has seen it. So yeah, if anyone sees it, I'd be curious to talk about it, but unfortunately I found it to be a bit of a missed opportunity.
All right, well that is Body Cam. I'm not going to spend too much time on this next review, but that's because it's more of a limited documentary series. So it's like a mini series called Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich.
One hot topic for another, guys.
Yeah, I know. We're really just kind of jumping around all these very fun, heartwarming. We did start on a high note, though.
Right, that's the thing. We started on this very light, sweet movie, and then we get to some pretty serious stuff.
Do you think we'll end on some hope?
We'll see.
We'll see. Well, yeah, fingers crossed. But Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich, like I said, it's a 4-part miniseries. It just came out on Netflix, and this is actually based on a book that came out 4 years ago by James Patterson. Now, a lot's happened with the Jeffrey Epstein case and everything since that book came out. Most notably, Jeffrey Epstein ostensibly committed suicide. If you're looking for a documentary that's sort of about all the conspiracy theories concerning Jeffrey Epstein, and I guess I should say, for those of you who don't know, Jeffrey Epstein is a horrible, horrible person who used his billions of dollars and connections to basically run a prostitution ring for underage girls. And a lot of people have a lot of conspiracy theories about the way he died because it is extremely shady. And there are a lot of people who had extreme motive to silence this guy because he could possibly bring to light a lot of connections to people who are also complicit in these crimes. So there's a lot of smoke around that. Now, this documentary doesn't get into that. There's 4 episodes. We don't really get into the circumstances around his eventual incarceration, like the one that really stuck, and his eventual suicide until the final episode. And we don't spend a lot of time on it. And one thing I do like about this miniseries is that it instead focuses a little bit more on the victims. The victims who are telling their story in this are the ones who are kind of front and center here. And that's easily the best thing about this documentary, is because, you know, I'm not super caught up on all of the details around this Epstein guy. And this was a helpful documentary in at least introducing me to the topic and kind of just laying out on a very factual, you know, no nonsense, here's a deal and here are all the talking heads, and just kind of letting people speak at length about, you know, what happened here and how did Jeffrey Epstein get away with doing this? This guy who was like in the spotlight and doing these terrible things, and women were coming out against him and telling people, the FBI, like, this guy is purposely, he has a ring of like trafficking women, like girls, not women, but like underage girls, some as young as 14. And it didn't stop when it needed to stop. It went on for years and years and years. And this documentary kind of shows you how that happened. One of the big weaknesses of this documentary series is Alan Dershowitz is in it. And if you don't know Alan Dershowitz, he is the defense attorney for Jeffrey Epstein, and they give him a lot of time to sort of defend the indefensible. And it's also kind of rich to be playing around with the title here, that he happens to be the impeachment lawyer for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a big part of this documentary as well. Although I shouldn't say big, because they don't really go into a lot of detail, but yeah, the president's like favorite go-to resort, Mar-a-Lago, happens to be an Epstein hotspot. And there's just a lot of stuff that comes up in this documentary where you're just like, how in the world is it not common knowledge? Like, I don't know if it is, but it doesn't seem like people have really reckoned with how connected Epstein is with not just Trump, but also Bill Clinton, like Prince Andrew. Like, a lot of this stuff is out there and people are aware of it, I guess, but like, this is a helpful documentary and really just like driving it home. Like, this is pretty messed up, and like they show you the receipts. Like, you know, you can't really get around how connected these guys, these like elite people are to somebody who was trafficking children. And it's disgusting. And this is a very upsetting, depressing documentary. I think it's a hard thing to recommend necessarily. I think you already have to be curious about Jeffrey Epstein, but not already so caught up that you're like, I don't really need to see this, except to sort of hear from the survivors and get their perspective on it. The problem is then you have to sit through this Dershowitz guy who's just saying things you're just like, dude, how can you possibly look at this situation and not, like, can you not read the room? Like, it's indefensible what this guy did, and he just sort of like dresses it and colors his words around the situation because he is a defense attorney for criminals, and it's just hard to watch a horrible, horrible person just like on display like this. But, you know, to the documentary's credit, it does lend it sort of a like, here's what they are saying about this, and here's the person who tried to get Jeffrey Epstein off. And, you know, I don't even know if they addressed the fact that he was the impeachment lawyer for Trump, but, you know, that's kind of beside the point. It also happened probably by the time this whole thing had ended production, because that was pretty recently. But yeah, so this was all of it was directed by Lisa Bryant, and it's not a long documentary to get through. It took about 4 hours. I mean, it is long, but, you know, as a series, it's not hard in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, I don't know how to recommend this, honestly, but yeah, if you have a vague curiosity and if you're kind of like, okay, what is this really about? Like, you know, what really happened here. This does sort of like lay it out in a pretty entertaining way. And I don't say entertaining as in like feel good. I mean, entertaining as like you can digest the information a little bit easier because like you're seeing like the deposition, you're seeing Jeffrey Epstein actually on camera talking and, unraveling to these lawyers. And there's just, it's a little bit more effective in really connecting his crimes and how he got away with his crimes with the actual information in a way that won't bore you necessarily. But yeah, that's probably the nicest thing I can say. So it's not the highest praise. I'm not going to grade this one since it's a mini series, which tends to be our deal. But, you know, if I had to say it in the zone, it's like, you know, really in the low end of B territory, high end of C territory, that kind of thing. But, yeah, seek it out if you just want to check out a competent docuseries that is about something pretty relevant and sadly something very tragic. You will get that with this, and that's Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich. I have a feeling, Will, that this is not on your radar.
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's good that it exists because it's good for people to know the extent of the crimes that Jeffrey Epstein did. And it's good that we hear from the survivors of it. But yeah, I mean, I know especially in the month leading up to his death, there was a lot of information that was revealed. And I know I followed a decent bit of it. So I imagine I have, maybe not the specifics of it, but I know I've heard a decent bit. And it's definitely, yeah, like you said, very tragic. And I can't imagine this is going to be anywhere close to a comfortable watch. So yeah, I don't know if I'll get around to it, but it's good that you got to see it and let us know about it. And yeah.
It sort of sounds like, all right, John, like patting me on the head. Thanks for watching.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, not exactly the one people are going to be flocking to, and that makes a lot of sense. Although I think it is in the top 10 of Netflix, so I'm not mistaken.
I think top 3 even.
Yeah, well, I think people are just genuinely like interested in like, you know, sort of seeing like the aftermath of this whole situation being contextualized or recontextualized. But that is Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich. Let's finish out this week's show with a review of Hope Gap. This is the hope we promised. This is a British drama film that came out last year. It was directed by William Nicholson, who is really more well known as a novelist. He's also, of course, a screenwriter, but he did the stage show. He's the playwright for what was it called, Shadowlands, and he's written a bunch of novels, and including have you seen the Noble Warriors trilogy or read that or aware of it?
I'm aware of it. Yeah, I haven't read those. But I was gonna say, I think maybe our listeners would be more familiar with his screenwriting, which includes Gladiator.
They might, yeah. Gladiator is the big one.
Les Miserables.
Elizabeth, Unbroken.
The sequel.
Yeah, the second Elizabeth. So the one, I think it's the Golden Age.
Yeah, the one
which is even worse than the first. Yeah. Although Gladiator is really good. Although he co-wrote that with a couple people. Their names escape me, but yeah, and then Breathe, I think was his most recent film. But I'm curious about this movie. This is he did the screenplay for this one, and it stars some great actors, including Annette Bening and Bill Nighy. So I did want to check this one out. It premiered at Toronto International Film Festival last year, and it was supposed to be coming out in the UK theaters next week, but I think it's just getting, like all things, a digital release at the moment. But Will, you've seen it. So did you get a screener for this?
Yeah, I got a screener. It wasn't really on my radar before, but you know, it's just like, hey, do you want to see this movie with Annette Bening and Bill Nighy? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm surprised I haven't heard about
Saturday.
This film.
I already got the Hawaiian shirt on. I'm ready to party.
Right. Yeah. So, you mentioned it somewhat, but this is based on his play, The Retreat from Moscow, which I believe was nominated for a Tony, and it was also, from what I can tell, I mean, I can't say this for sure, so maybe this is me being speculative, but I believe it's based at least somewhat loosely on his own parents' divorce. So the film, like I said, Bill Nighy and Annette Bening, they're this British couple, live a very quaint life. Bill Nighy is a school teacher. Annette Bening is not. I forget what her profession was. But yeah, they've been married for close to 30 years. They're about to celebrate their 29th wedding anniversary. They have a son who, he's not really close, but he's not distant either. He doesn't really know how to handle his mom, and his dad's kind of distant, so he's just kind of living his own life. And the Bill Nighy's character, he's definitely, you can tell from the beginning, like he's definitely in his own little world. Like Annette Bening is definitely a little bit more vibrant and talkative, but he is definitely a little bit more reserved. He doesn't really seem to have a spark for his wife, and it's made apparent that he is just not happy with the relationship. And just on the cusp of their anniversary, he announces that he has fallen in love with another woman and that he is going to leave her. And he is very like sympathetic towards this, but he's also he cuts to the chase. Like he's not really willing to stick things out. Like he just kind of wants to get this over with and then move on. And Annette Bening's character is deeply heartbroken by this. She's a very religious woman, and she's definitely a very emotional woman, so she takes it very hard. And the son is ultimately caught in the middle of this tethered relationship or untethered relationship, where he definitely is sympathetic towards both parents, as one would be, but ultimately he knows that there's like no real reconciling this relationship, and he's kind of caught somewhere in between, which is very interesting grounds for a story. And I definitely can see why this worked well as a play, but as a movie, it's ultimately somewhere in the middle again. I feel bad because I was going to try to find some movie. I was like, well, surely I can praise some movie, but unfortunately I didn't get a chance to find something that really won me over. Not for a lack of trying, though. This film, I definitely think in the beginning, like I said, like I think there's a very intriguing, very kind of quaint story here that's, very personal, very homespun in a way that really elevates the drama at the beginning. There's definitely shades of Marriage Story here. And then what was that movie, 45 Years, that came out a few years ago that I know that got a lot of good notices?
Charlotte
Yeah, I know that got a lot of good notices, has kind of similar plot. And I imagine that's probably the better of the two films as far as like older couple gets divorced films.
Well, it has a more complete premise though, right? Like it has like a little bit of like an inciting incident that's pretty interesting, and whereas this seems a little bit more like wound down almost from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very British film, so it definitely has, not very like heated arguments or like, I mean, obviously Annette Bening is a kind of more vocal, impassioned character, but by and large, the execution of the film is a lot more subdued, a lot more refrained, which I kind of admire, but I think the problems of the film ultimately are more that once the characters split, we don't really spend a whole lot of time with Bill Nighy's character, mostly with Annette Bening's character. And I mean, Annette Bening's fine. I mean, I think she does a decent job here. Her British accent leaves, I guess, something to be desired. But outside of that...
Look, you just said Annette Bening is fine. I know you don't mean it in the way of like overall, but I still have to interrupt and say Annette Bening is a treasure. Sure. And that's all. That's all I got.
Yeah, Warren Beatty is a very lucky man. I mean, I think they're still together, right? I'm pretty sure they're still together. But I don't know. I mean, I think that's part of it, where it's like the father side of the story, because the character's so kind of emotionally distant that we don't really spend as much time with him, which is a shame because I think his character is a lot more interesting than Annette Bening's character. At least how they're presented here. Like I just felt like there was more to his story that I was drawn to than Annette Bening's, where I guess everything just seemed kind of telegraphed, and it felt like it was a lot more transparent in a way that I felt like, because we spent a lot of time with her, it just got a little repetitive as far as what her side of the events were. But also, yeah, I mean, I think it's really kind of crummy to say this because it's obviously based on a guy's true life story, but I just don't know if this film really fully conveys the emotional depth of the story. Like the pacing of it, because William Nicholson is not as much of a director as he is a screenwriter, and I think his last film was like in the 90s, so it's been about like a good 20-something years since he directed something. The second half of this, which things are a little bit more spaced out, like there's a lot more time passage, it kind of loses the simplicity that I found really endearing with the beginning of the film, where it was a lot more emotional and a lot more investing because it was so tightly knit. I just didn't think the second half really held as much water as the first half, which is a shame because I do think there is something about this premise that, definitely a smaller film and definitely not one that will probably catch too many made people's radar for that reason. But there, it's earnest and it's definitely, like I said, very personal. But in the end, it just didn't fully win me over. Even though I was digging it at first. But I mean, there's a lot to like here. I mean, the scenery is very nice. Like I said, Bill Nighy is very good. I also like the adult son, but I can't think of the actor's name. But in the end, this is a kind of a high C+ film in that I think there's promise here. I think there's good stuff to be found. I just don't think it fully came together in a way for me that I feel I could fully recommend it, but not a waste of my time. Just kind of a fairly middle of the road film, like I said. So I apologize for not doing too many films that were outside of the middle range this week, but you get the cards you're dealt, and that's how I felt. So
you can't grade on a curve, right? Like,
sure.
This is just calling it as you see it. Yeah, you're right about two things. Yes, Annette Bening is still with Warren Beatty, and yes, he is a very lucky man. And you're right. William Nicholson hasn't directed anything since Firelight, which is a late 90s movie. I think it was like 98, 97. And I guess I could see why this movie is his next director, like why he would direct this.
Oh, for sure.
It's also like a romance. Like he's not trying to do something a little bit more ambitious. Like he's written like science fiction and fantasy, but so he's not jumping to trying to direct like some kind of big budget blockbuster. I don't think anyone would hire him to, despite him being like, maybe he could screenwrite something like that. Like he obviously has those chops, but yeah, I've never seen, except for Firelight, I've never seen that like sort of like directing experience with this director, and I barely remember Firelight, so I'm not sure.
I didn't see it.
I'm not sure if my memory is fuzzy for a reason or if it's just been that long.
Sure.
All right, well, that is a Hope Gap, and kind of a middling episode of Cinemaholics. Not a lot of stuff to get that excited about between Space Force, Jeffrey Epstein,
right,
body cams,
right,
Annette Bening's the Oscar performance that Annette Bening didn't get nominated for because of Report.
Right. It's just like, the world's crumbling around us. There's just a lot of animosity right now. Let's go to the movies to get our mind off of things. Everything's just okay. Well, all right.
Well, we can't go to the movies, so
right.
I maintain that the high note is well worth checking out. It's a solid B minus. That is a B minus right there. Just check it out. It's fun.
Well, I hope people like it at least. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I shouldn't say that so cavalier because I do think some people will be like, this isn't worth $20, and I guess for a lot of people that will probably be the case, unfortunately. But you know what? If you are listening to us and you're like, guys, I come to Cinemaholics every week, same deal. I watch these movies you tell us about, and I want something. I want give me a little something. Well, right now on Netflix, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Have you seen it? Will Ashton's about to. He's binging the whole thing. And he said he's going to binge it this week. I think that's right.
Well, after I binge The Last Dance, I'll get to that one.
No, because you said you were going to do this before. So no, the deal was that after you finish Nathan For You, you would start Avatar: The Last Airbender. I would start Joe Pera Talks With You.
Yeah, I mean, I can do both. I guess I can bounce between Last Dance.
You can walk and chew gum.
And Avatar: The Last Airbender. I don't know what that would be like, but I'll have to find that out for myself.
I suppose so. But next week we're going to be talking about Shirley. That is the new movie starring Elizabeth Moss. It's coming to Hulu. This is another Sundance movie that I've heard really good things about. So I want to see it a lot.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So I want to see it very badly. There's also Becky, which you know more about Becky than I do. But that's Joel McHale and who else?
Yeah, so it's Joel McHale and then a rare dramatic turn from Kevin James, apparently. It's like a thriller film.
Interesting.
So he's the villain. That's what intrigues me. I don't know if the film's any good, but I'm like, well, that's something.
I don't know, because I've always known him, to me, he's royalty. So I don't know if I could buy him as a villain, but we'll see. That's right. But that'll do it for us this week on Cinemaholics. We'll see y'all next week. From the Internet California, I'm John Negroni.
And for the Internet Pennsylvania, I'm Will Ashton.
# see you next time.